Dear listeners, some of you already know that we put up chapter 181 called Aisha, Child Rape, on the 20th of November 2008 about Muhammad's child bride Aisha. Although we were, as usual, only quoting from the Muhammadan sources themselves, YouTube terminated this chapter after only 1 hour on the net. Their excuse was that we had violated their terms and conditions. We would like very much to have a YouTube representative tell all of us how we had done so. They have passed a death sentence on the chapter without a trial. They have acted like all Muhammadan leaders do. No due process of law, no morality, and no justice, especially since we have not broken a single rule of theirs. YouTube seems to be invariably targeting any and all those who are exposing the facts and reality about the cult of Muhammad and Islam. There are hundreds of thousands of racist, hate-mongering and war-mongering videos on YouTube by the followers of Muhammad that are neither touched nor terminated. They are actually aiding and abetting the followers of Muhammad who do their worst to suppress or terrorize any and all those who expose the truth about Muhammad and his Quran, especially since they can never counter our arguments in a free and public debate. Will you please visit our blog http://the-Quran Koran.blogspot.com/ that contains every single one of our chapters, and make your comments and thoughts known there. You can also distribute this chapter any way you can on the net, as long as it is not tampered with in any manner. The subject of Muhammad's child bride Aisha is so sensitive to them that they would do everything in their power to suppress the issue and nip it in the bud. Many of our adversaries are gloating on the internet about the termination of our chapter. Their celebrations are premature as well as stupid, since in fact terminating our chapter is a blessing in disguise, as it proves to our listeners, both so-called believers and unbelievers, how deadly accurate we are in dismantling Muhammad's Quran, term by term, mantra by mantra, ayah by ayah, and surah by surah, turning each and every one into particles of dust to be returned to the desert of Arabia, where they all came from. We have asserted the following before, and would like to repeat it as many times as is necessary. The worst nightmare of Muhammadan Islam is knowledge. That is, knowledge of the Quran, Hadiths, Arab and Islamic histories, because it is by divine justice, Haqq Ilahi, and by divine will, Qidra Ilahiyya, that the very Hadiths that explain the Quran and Muhammad's Sunnah to his followers are the same, that completely discredit Muhammad's pretensions to prophethood and the alleged divine origin of the Quran. That is why they must suppress any and all subjects that reveal the facts about this evil cult belief system. As you all know by now, that is exactly why we would not need to tamper with, change or edit their own books, since they are the ones that are the best sources to accomplish our purpose of enlightening an otherwise ignorant humanity, both among the so-called believers and unbelievers. The followers of Muhammad, as usual, must distract or divert the attention of people from the actual subject matter that they can never defend. Let us accept for argument's sake their following unsubstantiated propositions about Aisha as if they were true, and find out if their statements can still hold. That she was in puberty when Muhammad penetrated her. That it was others among his companions who suggested he marry Aisha of 6 years of age. That her father Abu Bakr was not shocked at Muhammad's proposal of marriage. That her father in fact encouraged the marriage and admonished Muhammad for not having penetrated her earlier than 9 years of age. That taking her dolls with her is not an indication of immaturity. Although, as far as we are concerned, all the above arguments are based entirely on desperate wishful thinking and contorted logic, we shall assume them to be correct. We now make the following remarks and questions. In almost all human societies, the female is not thought to be equal to the males, and most certainly not among the Muhammadans. Muhammad asserted that females are deficient in intellect. Muhammad put their karma on the same level as that of a donkey and a dog. please remember how much Muhammad hated dogs. Muhammad asserted that most of the inhabitants of hell are females who are disobedient to their husbands. That is, they are not as enslaved mentally as they should be. In which human society are females or even males of the ages of 6 years or 9 years considered to be mentally competent to make intelligent, rational, and weighted judgments on anything? If intellectual maturity was at such an early age, why are not young people around the world allowed to vote until the ages of 16, 17, or 18? After all, not a single Mohammedan state asserts such rights to its children in 55 states in the world. In fact, they treat their grown-ups with contempt by depriving them of all possible human freedoms. Nowhere in either the Quran or Hadith is there a single verse mentioning that Aisha was asked for her consent in the first place, nor would it have been of relevance under her circumstances. Nowhere in their books is there any mention that her father or mother asked for her opinion. Just having menstruation does not automatically give Aisha knowledge of the world. Her own hadiths indicate that she had no prior knowledge of what her parents and Muhammad were setting her up for. The fall of her hair was not because of any disease, but because of the shock of being handed over to a stranger of 50 years of age. Based upon all the above, and demolishing the Muhammadan mantra about her puberty by accepting it to be true, Aisha was a victim of her parents and of Muhammad. Furthermore, even if we also accept that Muhammad was not a pedophile, he was nonetheless, by any moral definition, a child molester of the first degree. Ladies and gentlemen, please be aware that any believer in Muhammad and Islam has no choice but to accept Muhammad's sunnah, and hence can never be persuaded through logic or morality to believe otherwise. They are forever trapped by Muhammad in his time warp of 7th century Muhammadan Muslim Arabia. That is why in most Muhammadan countries they force their females in early marriage to older men in emulation of the most perfect man that ever lived, their Muhammad. In summation, no matter how the followers of Muhammad attempt to distort, distract, or contort logic and reality, as they have been doing for 1400 years, one fact remains and cannot be ever changed. The 6-year-old Aisha was not asked for her consent. Without consent and the freedom to choose, Aisha was raped by Muhammad.